Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. It's 7 o'clock on the dot, and the first order of business is to ask if there's any on-table items. There is one that I'm aware of. That's item 8D2. We've seen this previously, so I won't give us time to read it unless anybody needs. Everybody good to proceed on the basis of this having been on table already with adoption of the agenda in front of us with this ad. It's been moved and seconded. Thank you. I should have said that the meeting has been duly promulgated and a quorum is present. And we're good to go in those regards. So, seeing no further discussion on the agenda. Peter, is that correct?
Yeah, I don't have any.
You good? All in favour? And opposed, that carries. Public participation. One in the gallery, nothing to participate at this stage. Welcome. There are no delegations, and so we'll go on to approval of the prior meeting minutes. That starts on page 5. Can I have a motion to approve these minutes? Thanks. And a second? Discussion?
You want to go default vote for the rest of the evening?
I'll just look. Let's just do that. So just for the record, if you don't wish to move and or second, say the word. Otherwise, because there being only two people, one has to move and one has to second.
But the corporate officer has to catch your furtive glances,
Yeah.
acknowledging that you are moving and seconding.
Oh, correct. No,
So I'll be on my toes.
for formality, we do want a mover and a seconder, but it's you two.
Sure, Mayor, with the briskness that you do a meeting, I just try and keep pace.
Oh, that was a subtle dig. The slowness.
Not so subtle.
Yeah. Okay, so seeing no discussion, all those in favour and opposed, that carries. So that's the meeting minutes of September 18th, and business arising. I don't believe there's any.
I can see.
No,
No?
Only comment is 2 weeks in a row, no changes to the minutes.
Things are looking up. That's pretty good. Yeah. And we'll go through the FULs, follow-up what they call unfinished business in the agenda. I don't believe any changes. And I have to acknowledge that I have not yet done 58. I apologize, which is what I said last time. I will.
Ditto 59.
Okay. So we'll get a motion to receive those and a second. Any further discussion? All in favour, opposed and carried. And moving on to staff report, and that is the item on page 17. We've read the report, no doubt. The recommendation is to approve the proposal, which is a total cost of $7,100?
Totaling
$7,300.
3 plus GST.
Remind us what the budget was on this one? 15, was
That's a
it?
complicated question,
Yeah.
actually, I think.
Traffic and parking layouts.
This was a repurposing of an existing budget, I think.
It was,
Yeah, but I think
we
some
just
things
budgeted
have
for the
cost
CN.
more, like signage stuff cost more
Yeah.
than what was originally budgeted,
was-
so
What
it's all
signage
coming out of the
stuff?
same
Two.
pot.
well, actually, we had the CN lot budget, that's why I'm hesitating. I don't know that we actually, through Aaron, Sunset Lot and Kelvin Grove.
No, the
we did
CN lot
budget,
wouldn't be
but
this.
the CN lot.
That was 25,000 on its own.
But that included the line painting, so that's what I'm saying, the line
Of
painting
the
was
CN lot,
in that
yeah,
budget in the
yeah.
CN lot. But
No,
I
this
don't-
budget came from somewhere that was unused.
Well, it could have been the unused portion of
Landscaping?
the CN lot, because we had budgeted.
But this hasn't been done yet.
I don't remember exactly how it evolved, but there was 15. But then my thought on this was that we
It
had
was for
gone
the
over a
parking
bit on the signage.
Yeah, so the signage, that was a separate, there was a community
Right.
signage and the parking signage,
Okay.
and that was a separate budget. But we're talking line painting here, or just the
Well,
parking
this
lot?
is just,
The layout.
This is the layout services
Yeah,
of,
layout
of
services,
the proponent. So I think this is within what we've got left.
Mm-hmm.
Proceeding with implementation of those things
Because that's a whole different question, sure.
is a different question. I
Yeah.
think with respect to proceeding in terms of the CN lot and proceeding in terms of the Sunset lot, I don't think those would be an issue. It just depends on what else comes of the third aspect, which is the sort of the main precinct part.
Right.
Yeah, I like
And I
that
thi-
term.
and I think-
We had a point raised from the gallery, which typically is not kosher, but it's a special case.
Well, check out withdrawal. I just read this each of 73 and then I looked at the proposal, it's not the total 73.
Yeah.
I thought
Oh,
they
yeah,
were
yeah.
saying to
No.
misread it, that was all. It's not each.
True.
There should be a comma after the word each.
Yeah, the proposal does is exactly 73.
Okay, nonetheless, it's still $7,300 for essentially sketching some lines on a map according to standard protocols. This excludes the necessary survey.
So, just to give you a bit of further background information on this, in discussion with the two proponents that we had at one point in time, there was discussion about whether or not there was a need for civil engineering on the project, and they had both assumed that there would be. However, we clarified a few things for them and clarified that we would not need civil engineering on this, but we would likely need survey with respect to the central precinct part.
Yeah, where actual hard things are, like bus shelters and
Yeah.
curbs.
Yeah. So, right, this does not include any additional survey costs, which my concern is that those survey costs could be substantial depending on what the options, what the ideas are. So,
Well, I mean,
That's why
presumably
it's-
you want to survey what we have now, and then the proponent would work through that.
ideally,
the
but
thing is that this design would then let us in for currently unbudgeted line painting and potentially curb building and additional signage that may be certainly as much again, and maybe even more.
yeah, I think that I think the advantage of the proposal with the the recommendation is subject to stopping before any survey work and getting estimates, and that is intended to be so that the preliminary work will identify what potential options may exist and should narrow the scope of any required survey work so that we can minimize that to the extent possible. And then at that point, make a determination as to whether or not we proceed with it once we get quotes, and dependent upon how much work is involved and what those costs are. And
Well, I mean,
where the
clearly,
council is.
the CN lot we budgeted $25,000 for hardware and design. So some of that money is paid for, and that work will need to be done anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just a little richer than I was anticipating.
Oh, this is actually much less than I was anticipating.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's 3 properties,
Street what?
it's 3 sites, it's not just CN.
It is, and the CN would need to be done, and Sunset has been done, and it's not 1,000% great. So, what do we think?
I'm fine. Let's move this on.
You want to move it on?
Yeah.
Okay, well, Fred?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so we'll take as a motion then, please, that the recommendation is the motion. I won't read the recommendation out, it's in the record. Can I have that motion? And a second? Any further discussion? All in favor? And opposed, that carries. Okay, good. I look forward to seeing, you may want to just sort of put a mid-course correction stop in there, just to check that it's heading right, and if it's heading right, then spend the rest of the money, otherwise. Okay, good. Verbal reports on the ICIP grant, CAO.
So with respect to this, some of the key requirements of this grant opportunity are project eligibility is based on outcomes of increased access and improved quality of community culture and recreation infrastructure. And that includes for indigenous and vulnerable populations. But they seem to emphasize throughout the materials a fair bit on access, and so accessibility will be a key item in any proposal, as will green building practices for any structures. Can't use gas tax funds as part of our share, and it can't be any housing project or daycare facility. Our share of expenses need to be in hand, and we'll need to do a detailed financial analysis of the project as part of the application process. And Pam has had some discussions with
Urban systems.
Urban Systems. Do you want to speak to that a little
Yeah,
bit?
Sorry, can I just
Sure.
step back? This is what we used to consider to be the phase 2 of the Clean Water Wastewater Fund, right? Was this another grant opportunity?
Well, the ICIP is what they're calling phase 2. of
Phase 2.
the CWWF.
So this is that.
So this is, and so the ICIP, which is the Infrastructure Canada, is it the Infrastructure Canada?
Oh,
Investing in
It's
Investing in
Investing in
Canada,
Canada
yeah.
Infrastructure
plan
Program.
program.
Sorry.
It's different streams. Like
And it
this
has
is-
several
yeah.
streams. So
Yeah.
this is one of the streams.
And this is the stream under which we would apply for that 600 and something thousand project.
Community culture and recreation infrastructure. That's
Okay.
what this
For
program is.
the 3 PRVs.
No.
And-
Oh, sorry.
No,
No,
this
this is for
this
the
would be
park.
for the beach park.
Beach Park.
This
Oh,
is
so we're
not-
talking
this
across
is not-
purposes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This is not that ICIP.
This
No.
is not that ICIP. That's a different stream for
And that
which we
grant's
have
been
already
submitted.
applied.
That
That's what I
application's
was.
been submitted, yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
I was getting to that. Okay, so
Yeah.
this is a new project.
Yes,
Yeah.
they're all ICIP, that's the umbrella, and then there's different components.
Got
So
it.
there's the
Okay,
infrastructure
sorry.
component for which we've already applied. Then there's this community culture and recreation infrastructure program, which we think might be a fit for the Lions Bay Beach Park.
Okay. Now we're on the same page. So sorry,
Okay.
carry on.
However,
I spoke to Urban Systems because we were approaching them about getting a quote to do the grant application for us. And they cautioned us that this first intake is very low dollar value. So the chances of being successful with this grant are low. To quantify that, between the federal and the BC portion, which is 73%, and we would come up with a 27. This intake, it's only $10 million. And then the next intake in 2020, 2021 is $42 million
For BC.
for BC, yes.
and it goes
So-
up from there, right?
And then it goes up, and then it's 73 million for 2021-22, 73 million for 2022-23, and then 58 million. They project it out to 2028, so it's a lower year. And there's a couple ways of looking at it. Initially, we were thinking, well, it's not a large intake, so our success would be lower. But then, if everyone feels that way, you could argue that maybe the success would be better, because no one with a very large project, if the total is only $10 million, anyone wanting a new community center for $5 or $6 million probably wouldn't even apply. The deadline is January 23rd. So there's a few things to consider. As Peter had mentioned, accessibility is big. We would have to make this park very wheelchair accessible, which could mean almost from the CN lot right down to the washrooms. Green infrastructure, so that would mean the bathroom would have to be green infrastructure. And whether or not, although January 23rd seems far off, we do have sort of a preliminary design, but a requirement is a very detailed design with a very detailed cost estimate and a project study or plan. So in terms of direction from council, we were thinking, we're having maybe a strategic planning session. We could talk then if we wanted to do that. There still might be time to apply for the grant after that. But also getting public input, because so far the public input based on, a good sketch, but that isn't the detailed plan that's required. We'd have to sort of finalize what the feedback from the community is, and maybe do some information in the village update to the community as well, because I don't think at any time we've talked about the possibility, a real possibility of applying for a grant. And the other consideration would be we could do a grant application for this grant, and if it was unsuccessful, we'd have it ready for the next intake. So there's just a lot of things to consider. We're not asking for a decision now. It's just something that maybe to discuss with the new council, talk about it at strategic planning. And I could find out from Urban Systems if we did decide to engage them, if they would have enough time to do the grant application after that decision was made in December. So we just wanted to lay out just the different.
Well,
all the
at this stage,
information we've
we
received.
didn't even know that this was even in contemplation. This is the first intimation I've had. So it's a good heads up. But I would be very concerned about trying to shoehorn our beach project, which is still very embryonic. It's still in concept stage. Trying to shoehorn it into a pretty narrow set of requirements. For example, accessibility. To make that beach park accessible will cost
Wow.
millions.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, just I think a wheelchair ramp
Well, it's a narrow,
from
it's
CN.
also,
No, I mean-
it's a narrow scope too.
For example, the wheelchair access ramp here had to be this zigzag thing because it couldn't be too steep. Or have you seen the slopes at the beach park?
Well, and
It'd be covered by paths.
I think that, looking at it just the other day, with this in mind, it wouldn't take much to have a nice path that leads to a new washroom building, which would obviously have accessible facilities within it. And some of the called for items and lawn furniture, so to speak, in the concept plan include picnic tables and things up above. So you wouldn't necessarily have to have a wheelchair going all the way down to the sand. What are they going to do at that point? They're going to have to get out, or somebody's going to have to carry them on the sand anyways. But I think that I don't think it would be that onerous to include accessibility features in this project, and I think it should be done in any event.
So
Okay.
Are you thinking more trinket stuff than big stuff?
I'm just thinking I don't consider including accessibility features for a concept for this beach park to be that onerous a provision. It might add a little bit to what otherwise might have been included, but I don't think it's, for building a new washroom, you're going to have to make an accessible.
accessible.
It's required by the building code
But we're
anyway.
not
So.
gonna have plans and all the rest of that stuff. I mean, that's,
Not even close. Not by
Oh, you
January.
wouldn't- well, yeah, I mean, it's, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know whether
I mean, to me,
we
it's
could.
a small intake, narrow scope, and
I guess the thing is that the building that we're talking about, which is the only thing, aside from placement of certain features within the park, the building plan, we're talking about a washroom, unless it grows in scope, but at the moment that's what it is. So I don't think that design, and we've already looked at various designs for different types of similar facilities. I don't think it would be that onerous if the decision was to proceed with it. So I'm not saying you should do it. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. I'm just saying that I don't know that you need to decide that at this meeting. I think that this is something that, well, first of all, let me just roll back a minute. There has been feedback provided to date by the public. That feedback, I haven't looked through it all, but I understand that it's somewhat mixed. And perhaps the first thing that council ought to do is receive a preliminary report on the feedback to date. At that point, you can make an assessment of what that feedback looks like right now, and put out a further call in the village update or what have you, to encourage more people to provide more feedback. Say, here's what we've got so far, and then take that additional feedback and the preliminary feedback to your strategic planning session. Decide what you want to do with it at that point. At that point, you might say, you know what, this is too many moving parts, not sure what we should do, let's kick it down the road a little bit. Or you might say, it's clear what we should do, and maybe we should go for it. But that's a decision I think you can make at that point in time.
I think what you're describing is a timeline that just won't fit the first intake then.
I don't think so either.
No.
And horror to my soul, the professionals that we had on the beach park committee were all looking at $30,000 for plans for a washroom. So without the plans, we're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Don't get me started on this, Pete.
Yeah, let's just move receipt of this report and refer it to council's next strategic planning session, which is December. Yep. And even then, it will be tight. And I am not going to presuppose what council says then, but for now, let's just receive this information. It's good to know that it's out there. Okay, so
And the takeaway is that there are going to be further intakes. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
an all or
Yeah.
nothing thing. There will be further intakes.
so yeah, it's good to know because I mean, we have the option of using the restricted funds on certain aspects of this, and maybe that's our contribution to the 27%. Okay, good. So a motion to receive the report and a second. Any further discussion? All in favour? Opposed and carried.
Forward the email with the breakdown of the intakes.
So just for the record, that was Councillor Bain requested that the terms of the programme be emailed to council.
Yes.
And then second staff report on the CN lot.
So the plan for that was that this week, by the end of the week, staff was going to be commencing with removal of the existing barriers and starting the preparation for installation of drainage facilities. However, unfortunately, we've had an issue with our backhoe, and it is out of service at the moment, so we're looking to line something else up, get a rental in. And there's other work that was slated for it as well. So that's sort of we're at that phase where we're going to be doing that. We're just also in the process of confirming calculations for the intended storm drainage system is adequate for its purpose, as that is a requirement of the CN lease. And the CN lease is actually something that I've been spending a bit of time on for a while, and some of the terms are requiring us to jump through some hoops and hurdles. So working on that still, and hoping that it may come back in time for the next meeting. But we'll see.
Well, I mean, it's seeing as the beach season is over, it's kind of moot in terms of delivery.
Well, we still want the security of the lease, obviously, in terms of the infrastructure and the expenses that we're expending on the improvements.
Yeah, but I mean, whether it's done now or in 2 months' time when the backhoe is fixed doesn't really make any difference.
Yeah.
Now, this is our new backhoe. This is a warranty item, one hopes?
We believe so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so thanks for that. Motion to receive that report and a second. Any discussion? All in favour and opposed and carried. I will just mention under the mayor report, even though I didn't table it as an agenda item, for which I apologise, that the designer for the community signage has completed his tasks, minus a few minor details, corner radiuses and things. And so now it's with Peter for amalgamation into a tender, and the date on that tender being issued.
I have to meet with Nye over that tomorrow, but we've been working through a draft, and possibly by the end of the week.
Okay, that sounds great. So just to remind us, the designer's budget was a third of the $15,000 budgeted cost for this, and so now the tender is going out for production of the signage and installation. And there's something like 54 designs, and several of the designs have maybe a dozen copies, like trail signage, dog signage, etc., etc. I don't think we're going to get it all done within that 15,000 budget, so it'll be for council to consider for next year's budget. But I think we'll get something good for what remains of the 15,000. Okay.
Thank you.
So that was neither here nor there, so I won't ask for any motion on that one. So we'll move on to committee reports, and there's one from the Trees, Views and Landscapes Committee. That's the tree application on page 21.
I wasn't at this meeting, and the request is straightforward. And Peter, I'm looking at page 21, and it's dead center. It's referred to Public Works, returned by Public Works. And other than the notation to the left, it which I presume Peter okayed to send. I'm not sure whether Public Works actually made a statement on this or not.
Yeah, I don't see any recommendation here.
Back page, I think.
Oh, this back page.
Sorry.
Page 36.
36. Oh yeah, okay.
No, that's the tree committee's recommendation.
Public Works is page 26.
26, thank you.
Oh, I see.
29,
Right.
27, 20. Thank you. All those, okay, good. So, thank you very much, Shauna.
You're welcome.
So as the motion is, it's recommended as requested, the applicant is permitted to carry out work as requested in the application, cleanup and removal of all associated debris.
Okay. That's tree application 88. That's a motion. Can I have a second? And any further discussion? Anything that we're going to regret later?
No, it's
I don't think so. This looks pretty straightforward.
straightforward.
Ron mentioned my only 2 questions about it and we dealt with. So
Okay,
it's fine.
good, thank you. All in favor? Opposed and carried. The emergency service report on page 37 contained,
Just said we got
You have
the
your
table.
addition on table.
oh, beg your pardon. Fred? Shoot.
Well, I think it's all in the handout. Do you want it read into the record? Or?
Well, no, maybe just if you want to make the recommendation as a motion.
Yeah, in regards to the Ocean View stormwater culvert issue, the IC recommends to council that staff should determine how far into the end of the old culvert the concrete plug extends. If it's just a short plug that can be hammered and broken out, then the remainder of the culvert can be accessed and relined. Excuse me. If most of or the entire length of the culvert is full of concrete and it cannot be reused, then another option would be required. They did mention that the concrete in it is sort of a weak slurry, not reinforced concrete or anything, so it could be feasible, but we don't know how long it is.
Okay, so this was just the IC's recommendation to council that we direct staff to take the next small step in this regard, to see if potentially the current routing can be utilized. Ron, were you in attendance at that meeting? Or did you miss this piece?
I was early in the meeting, but not here for
Okay.
that, but this is very dear to my heart.
Yeah. So it may be that it's doable, it may be that it's not, in which case something else would have to be done, either a completely new drainage channel cut through the existing easement, or the present drainage, which goes all the way down Ocean View, upgraded to accommodate additional flow. But we don't know, so this is the first step.
What does the term short plug mean?
One of very small length.
Oh,
One that we could get out without digging up roads and
okay,
gardens.
so we're just, okay.
I should mention also, the IC discussed, if it isn't feasible to clear the thing, or clear the existing culvert and reline it, another option would be to increase the length of the black HDPE pipe and take it all the way to dump it into the Harvey Creek channel. That's gonna have a bit of a pushback, I think, because I haven't heard a positive comment about the big black pipe in the ditch.
Well, that would be a major design issue. I mean, if it was 900,000 to design the drainage on Mid Bayview, this will be more, because it would be underground. It'd have to be upsized because the existing gauge is not designed for the current flows.
And it's
They were supposed to go into Rundle Creek,
It
so-
is much longer too, to take it
Yeah.
all the way to Harvey's.
and you still have to accommodate the drainage into the swale off the road. So you can't have only black pipe. So it'll be a major deal. But this is just a check that perhaps the existing routing can be relined. You had a
My question was whether there was any discussion as to why it was plugged in the first place.
Yeah, that came up in the meeting, is, excuse me, the existing culvert being a steel, ripped steel and everything, it rusted and deteriorated, and they were concerned that it wasn't gonna take the flow any longer. So rather than dig up the whole garden and everything and put in a big one, which would be expensive, the wisdom of the time was that go the cheap route, put a plug in it and redirect it down the ditch.
which was not insubstantial work. I mean, the public works manager showed us the pictures. An actual box has been put into the ditch. and the road was cut,
Mhm.
and culvert was put underneath the road to redirect the stuff coming from the top end of Ocean View down the middle end of Ocean View, rather than where it was originally designed to go into Rundle Creek.
Mhm.
So yeah, it wasn't just a by gosh and by golly. It was a project that somebody undertook, which was not insubstantial.
But it was the cheap option.
It was certainly the cheaper option, and the less subject to resident pushback option, because obviously it would take reopening the easement that goes down between two houses on Ocean View into Rundle Creek. So it was certainly done.
Kinder and gentler.
It was different times.
But on the other hand, the unforeseen consequences were that we've had too much water ending up seeping under the road and reports of it getting into other people's property on the downhill side.
Yeah, well, I mean, I remember 2 years ago we asked staff to look at creep on that stretch of Ocean View, and the technical report came back that there had been no creep, and yet I have seen trees move from the course of 1 year to the next, brand new fences that started out vertical, leaning at 30 degrees. So I'm not quite sure how that report came about, but be that all as it may, the first order of business is to see if that can be resurrected.
Mhm.
It's not going to be a simple thing, but fine. So the public works manager believes that potentially we can do some little exploratory drilling in the public right of way, so no impingement on people's property, private property. Maybe ground penetrating radar, but he doesn't think that would work. But it's really just authorizing staff to go ahead with one more step in this before we bite the bullet and add it to the project list. There's more pressing drainage needs, believe it or not, than this one.
Mm. But I should add also, next to water, like supply water, a lot of the members, or a good number of the members of the infrastructure committee are thinking drainage is going to become one of our biggest issues in the village.
Yeah. Well, it certainly is on the now budgeted and just waiting for funding project down Mid-Bayview from Mountain to Stewart. But this may be the next most important one, because as we know, the water coming all the way down Ocean View now from the very top ends up at the intersection of Center and Ocean View, or Cross Creek and Ocean View.
Cross Creek, yeah.
Cross Creek and
With
Ocean
the
View.
panorama taking the big brunt of it,
Yeah.
right at that intersection.
Yeah. So this may be the other candidate for pressing need is Upper Bayview. The rest is in pretty good shape once we get the stretch from Mountain to Stewart taken care of. Okay, so that was the motion. Thank you, Fred. Can I have a second on that one? It's been seconded. Any further discussion?
Should we be,
Sorry, the motion, it was just Councillor Bain read out what the recommendation was. from
So we're
the
taking that
IC.
as the motion. He's moving
The
that.
motion to receive it?
No, that he's moving that council.
This is just...
Council
this is-
must direct staff to determine how far into the end of the Alcova.
Okay, well, I think first what you need to do is receive the recommendation from the IC,
Oh, okay, fine.
and then decide what you want to do with it.
Okay, so the actual motion that you made was exactly that, to receive that report.
Mhm.
And a second on that one. Thanks. All in favour? Opposed and carried. Council, what's your pleasure? I'll ask for a motion. What's your motion?
that council or that staff should determine how far in, as it's worded out here.
Fine. So the motion is that council directs staff to determine how far into the end of the culvert the plug extends. It's been seconded. Any discussion on that one? Ready for the question? All in favour? Opposed and carried. Good. Beautiful. What did I say about mayor? Or did we have that report already? That was to do with the...
Yeah.
Sorry, beg your pardon. So, that went there. 82. 82. Okay. I need to take these things off. So the emergency services report on page 37. I had only one thing that caught my eye on that one. I just want to see if you can shed any light on this one, Peter. Yes, that was on the Lions Bay Village, bylaw parking violations times 5. Was that written with our ticket book or some other ticket book?
I'm not
Do you know
sure.
anything about it?
No, I'm not sure what that refers to.
Yeah, okay, well, so that was the one thing that I flagged. The other thing is they issued 63 traffic tickets. That's in July and August, which, as we know, they could issue 63 an hour quite easily. So that's no great shakes. But the other thing that struck me was this 18 other investigation, of which 6 are criminal code. That's the first time I've seen criminal code mentioned in the Lions Bay police report. I do know that I've had several residents alert me to the fact that their cars were broken into. We had another spate on Saturday night. Several cameras, several break and enters, and we know what that is. It's somebody coming through. It's known as rich and easy pickings. But so these things are not. This is a trend in the wrong direction to my mind. We see the mischief item there. I think we know what that is. That's our little whippersnappers spray painting the village, being visited by the police.
And then
Presumably.
they will grow up, and another batch will come about another decade later.
Precisely.
This has happened.
Yep, right. So, anyway, so when we have our next meeting with the RCMP, I don't actually know when that's scheduled for. Do you remember?
Got it on my calendar, but I don't remember offhand.
Is it this month or next month? I think it may be in the new term.
I think it might be at the end of this month.
So maybe we'll just ask them about those bylaw violations and where's the money?
Ask those soon,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah, maybe you should ask them because it depends on which bylaw. Maybe it's
Curious as to
big money.
what process we're talking about here.
Exactly. Yeah. Or if true. Okay, so for now, all we need is a motion to receive this report with some action arising that Peter's got in play. Thanks. And a second. All in favour? Opposed and carried.
I forgot to mention this. Can I make a brief mention of the ESS meeting I attended?
Sure, that can go under committees.
Yeah, or emergency things or whatever.
Sure, okay, fine. Yeah, make it under E2. Yeah.
Okay. There was a mention at the ESS about the Shakeout BC on October 18th. Big event coming up. It'd be nice to have that into the record. Everybody would be prepared for that.
Can you put it in the update?
We do it every year.
Yeah, okay.
We
And,
actually do the drill here, and I put it in the village update.
oh, okay.
Does everybody get under the table?
We do, actually.
Good.
Not even joking.
That's why I need a big table here.
Yeah.
Also, the other thing they mentioned was the Emergency Preparedness Conference that's between October 30th and November 1st. It's kind of snuck up on us. I don't think anybody's going to go this year, but if we sort of had a heads up for next year, it's a worthwhile conference for anybody interested in emergency preparedness. A late admission fee for this year was $795, so missed the short cutoff, so I won't forget it for this year. But maybe we could flag that on our calendar for next year.
Yeah, we do need to start slightly thinking about that. You don't need any of that stuff until you need it, and then it's too late to start thinking about it. So, yeah, I mean, that is just all part and parcel of moving us into that era. Part of the asset management plan in any way, Pam? Probably not.
No.
Okay. Okay, thanks, Fred. Would you like to move receipt of that?
Yeah, sure.
And a second? It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favour? Opposed? Carried. Okay, there's no resolutions and there's one bylaw. That is adoption of the Council Remuneration Bylaw number 552 of 2018 on page 39. Now, I'll just point out that this bylaw is not yet in force. The provisions of the old bylaw are in force as of this moment in time. One of the provisions of that bylaw is a restriction in remuneration paid to council members who have missed 3 meetings. That is in fact the case. Unfortunately, this bylaw was not passed before this meeting, but in fact at this meeting. And so that provision has been triggered, and I will leave it up to staff to determine what that means and what to do about it, given that there is only one pay cycle left in this council's term. But somebody will question whether the provisions of the bylaw were followed. Guaranteed. Either for or against. So we need to understand what was done in that regard. It would be a closed item, I would think.
Just item 7 on the back page says this bylaw comes into effect January 1st, 2019, so you are right. We are in the old bylaw up until the
Didn't we have this debate? I thought the debate was when adopted.
No, it's,
No, it's
we
January
settled on this is what it is, because this is the way that.
This is how it would work.
The new things are calculated. so-
Okay, well, so it's even, so the old bylaw applies until December 31st.
That's right.
So I will leave it to you guys to determine how you effect that provision in the existing bylaw. That is specifically, for the record, missing 3 consecutive council meetings unexcused, which has actually happened. Okay, so I'll just point that out. So on a happier note, the recommendation is adoption of this bylaw. Can I have a motion in that regard? And a second? Any discussion on the bylaw? The new one, that is. I'll call the question. All in favour? Opposed? And carried? Okay, good. Congratulations, Ron. 15 big ones.
Yeah. Just have to work on the travel allowance.
Well, I'll tell you, a full attendance fee at UBCM is hair-raisingly high, as I discovered when I bought it. Because, I've never bothered to actually get a ticket before. I just go to the meetings.
$600 or something.
It's more like 1,200. Yeah. It's a money-making racket for somebody.
1,200 plus
Plus.
150 plus.
Plus. Yeah. But those, you want to go to... in fact, I didn't even buy the right ticket. I had to pay an extra $70 for a lunch. But
How was that lunch?
Well, it was good. The MLA had his arm around me and he tried to sneak me in, but they stopped me. Can I see that?
Hey, well, there you go.
I think when I say the MLA tried to sneak me in, he didn't know that I hadn't paid for the lunch.
Oh.
Just for the record. Given that he's a member of government. Okay, so that's that. There's correspondence? None?
Ooh.
There was a correspondence item. I forwarded it on Thursday. And it was significant, and it was to do with... Well, it's not in the agenda, so the public wouldn't have seen it. There was a correspondence item.
It's just the one that I initiated.
I can't remember, but all I know is that it needed to have been seen by council.
Is it the Upper Bayview one?
What was that again?
Something to do with the road condition and potholes and
No,
stuff?
I initiated.
Oh, that was it.
No, and that wasn't to council, so that's not a public item. I'm not going to bother looking it up,
Okay.
but so it'll have to be in... No, it was timely. There was a need for it. Can you look it up, Sean, on your email there?
Yeah,
I believe I sent it Thursday or Wednesday, and I said for correspondence.
Peter, there was one, it's this one here, and you said that it was, oh, sorry, it just went away. Hold on. I just found it. It was this one, but it was already dealt with or something.
The camping sign that we took care of?
That's the only one I got.
That was on Thursday.
Oh yes, I think it was, because the issue was what's the policy around... Is it from me, and does it say for correspondence?
Minimum 15 and 16. We all got it from, I'm pretty confident.
Slight hiatus here. Speak amongst yourselves.
You talk about the email from the resident at the bottom of...
I don't
Wednesday
remember.
Ave?
All I know
And
is
the
I sent
camping?
something on Wednesday or Thursday that says for correspondence. Is that?
That's the camping sign.
That's the camping sign
we dealt
and
with
people
it right
camping
away.
at the parking lot.
And we dealt with it right away.
What about people camping at the parking? I mean, the sign is not going to stop them.
Well, the sign's there now. I mean,
Okay.
for whatever reason, the sign came down. Now the sign's back up saying no camping. It's got a picture of a trailer and a tent.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Funny that. I don't know how much. I don't ever remember there being a no camping sign, but
I guess just drove by, I saw the parking thing, but I didn't see the no camping.
I never saw a no. Well, I
In any
must
event,
admit, certainly the resident
the
remembers.
resident wasn't entirely fussed about the actual camping, but when the campers pull out a generator, start making noise,
At 2 in the morning, yeah.
then it makes a difference. So
And there's no facilities there, so they're going in
Yeah.
the bushes.
or if they've got an RV, then they might
Maybe,
have their own
yeah.
facilities.
Okay, so you felt that had been sufficiently handled.
I think that
no
was
need for the
probably
record.
why it was not.
Okay, fine. There may be a policy issue around camping in the parking lot, and do we care?
Yeah, I think we care.
Probably do. Okay, so no correspondence after all, and no new business. Public questions and comments.
Sorry, when I put my hand up earlier, there was something else in my mind, but I didn't say it. That thing about on the 8.1A1 about millennium architecture. Ron, haven't you previously, your wife had a relationship with and you recused yourself from voting on those matters?
I
Has
did
it changed?
on, it was to do with the beach park. I did. Can we do this, Peter? It's a personal relationship, I've had no contact with anything other than this.
I need to refresh my memory on details, but can we just take a short recess?
Sure. Motion to recess. Second. All in favour. Opposed. Carried.
Can you refresh my memory?
At 7:55. And Ron, I believe that as a result of discussions you held with the CAO while we were in recess, you have a motion to make.
Yes, I have a motion upon further consideration. I think I should have recused myself on this decision, member. I apologize for wasting council's and staff's time on this. So that being said, if I was not a participant in this, there would be no quorum. So I think we should rescind.
Okay, so you're moving to rescind the resolution. This is specifically one relating to the recommendation in staff report A1. And can I have a second on that discussion? Peter? No jurisprudence, no words of wisdom, no corporate officer.
No, there's been a motion and a second to rescind on grounds that have been stated, and I think that
It's within the purview of the chair to entertain one. This is within 30 days of the original resolution, so obviously, seeing as it was about 15 minutes ago. So I think it's the motion is duly made, properly made. So last chance. Okay, I'll call the question. All in favour, opposed and carried. So that motion, that resolution has been rescinded. And now I believe you have a second motion you'd like to make pertaining to...
Well, I don't think he should make that motion.
Well, without him making the motion or seconding it, we can't do anything.
Well, I suppose.
It's just rescinded.
It's
So we'll need to then move to...
Deal with the item on the agenda.
Yeah, so we just need to deal with item 8A1. And Fred, maybe you'd care to move referring it to the next meeting?
yeah, I so do.
Okay. Just for form's sake, I'll second that. Quorum is present. All in favour? Opposed and carried? And that takes care of business?
Yeah.
Okay. Fine. Let's. Thanks for that, Neville. Good catch. Let's not have any of that nonsense. And we'll move now into closed council meeting. Can I have a motion that the meeting is closed under Community Charter 91A, C and E? It's been moved and seconded. All in favour, opposed and carried. Okay, so that means everybody who shouldn't be here should not be here. Okay, we're resuming the meeting at 9:15, so 15 and a half. One item to report out of closed session, and that is that council did an end-of-term assessment or review of the CAO's performance. That material remains closed under 91A and C. That's personal information and labour relations, the reasons. Other than that, matters were discussed pertaining to the reasons for closing the meeting and will remain there for a while until such time as they're reported out. And with that, I believe I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. It's been moved and seconded. All in favour? Opposed? And carried.